Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome. Thank you for joining us. My name is Marisa Campos-Troutz, and I'm on the public outreach team for the SR-55 I-405 to I-5 improvement project. We will begin our presentation momentarily. We're going to give just a moment while folks are logging on. And while we wait, I do want to go over a few housekeeping items. A note to everyone joining, this presentation is being recorded. The recording will be available on our project website later this week, octa.net/SR55South. We will have Spanish interpretation available today. My colleague, Ruben Hoyos, will serve as our interpreter. And as I complete going through these announcements, Ruben will repeat them for us in Spanish. For everyone joining us today, your microphone is automatically muted and cameras are disabled. And we will have an opportunity for questions and answers following the PowerPoint presentation. We ask that you please drop any questions or comments into the Q&A box. You can find that in your Zoom toolbar. The chat feature will be reserved for our team to provide you with important resources and links throughout the meeting. And we might also reach out to you directly for clarification or to get more information to help us answer your question. So again, a reminder, please use that Q&A box for any questions or comments. We will have a survey available at the end of the presentation, and we will drop the link to that survey in the chat. We welcome you to provide your feedback on today's presentation and to help us refine and improve for future presentations. If you do need any assistance during the presentation, please email our team at sr55info@octa.net. And at this time, Ruben will repeat these announcements for us in Spanish. Ruben.
Sí, buenas tardes y gracias por acompañarnos. Me llamo Rubén Hoyos y soy el intérprete del proyecto de mejoramiento de la SR-55. Comenzaremos la presentación momentáneamente, mientras que la gente se conecta. Mientras que estamos esperando, quiero repasar algunas cosas para la presentación de hoy. Primeramente, la reunión está siendo grabada. Esta grabación estará en nuestro sitio web a finales de esta semana y se puede encontrar en octa.net SR55 South. 2. Su micrófono se silencia automáticamente y las cámaras están desactivadas. Habrá una oportunidad para preguntas después de la presentación. Por favor, utilice el cuadro de preguntas y respuestas para hacer estas preguntas. La función de chat está solamente reservada para nuestro equipo, para que le podamos brindar recursos importantes durante la reunión. Una encuesta también estará disponible al final de la presentación en el chat para proporcionar comentarios sobre la presentación de hoy. Finalmente, si necesita ayuda para solucionar problemas durante la presentación, envíenos un correo electrónico a sr55info@octa.net.
Thank you, Ruben. At this time, we'll provide instructions for anyone listening to today's presentation that wishes to use the interpretation feature in Zoom. Once these instructions are given, we will enable the interpretation and then begin our presentation. Ruben, if you could please provide the interpretation instructions for us.
Ahora, por favor, hagan usted está usando un teléfono móvil, Y ahora lanzaremos la función de interpretación en Zoom. Por favor, haga clic ahora.
Thank you, Ruben. It's now my pleasure to introduce our presenter this afternoon, the outreach manager for this project, Kalina North.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you, Marisa. Again, my name is Kalina North, and I'd like to welcome everyone who has joined us for this presentation on the SR-55 Improvement Project. I'm joined by members of the outreach team, and I'd like to briefly introduce them. You already heard from our moderator, Marisa Trouts, who will also facilitate the Q&A session immediately following the presentation. Ruben Hoyos is providing Spanish interpretation for today's meeting. And team members joining us behind the scenes include Megan Johnson, Cynthia Uzweta, Leslie Tuatela-Ponga, and Clara Brodkey. So we'll begin our presentation with a project overview. The SR-55 freeway is one of Southern California's most heavily congested freeways and an important truck route. The project adds one regular lane and one carpool lane in each direction of the 55 between I-405 and I-5, as well as merge lanes between several interchanges, which will allow drivers to go from one interchange to the next without merging with freeway traffic. Also, the carpool lanes will be striped for continuous access, which will allow motorists to enter and exit the carpool lanes more easily and safely. The total project cost is estimated at $475.1 million and is funded by OCGO, also known as Measure M, as well as state and federal funds. Measure M is a half-cent sales tax for transportation improvements in Orange County that was approved by voters in 2006. So though this is an OCTA project, Caltrans, as the owner and operator of the state highway system, is overseeing construction, which began last August. Construction is expected to take approximately 3.5 years. Next slide. So this slide shows the existing condition on top, one carpool lane and 4 regular lanes, as well as merge lanes, also known as auxiliary lanes in several locations. The bottom graphic shows the project improvements with a second carpool lane and an additional regular lane in each direction, and new northbound merge lanes between interchanges from MacArthur Boulevard to Edinger Avenue. Next slide, please.
Kalina, before we dive into the construction activities, I'd love to launch our first poll question. We use these polls during our presentation to engage with our audience and learn a little bit more about who's joining us today. So first question, how often do you travel through the project corridor? Maybe it's part of your daily commute, or weekly, you're running errands, or maybe occasionally you just head out that way to go to the beach or the Orange County Fair. We'll give a moment for folks to respond. Great. Looks like for most people, it's part of their daily commute. Thank you so much. With that in mind, if you're going daily, yeah, thank you. Kalina can tell you about the construction activities that are underway.
So the project generally entails the following major activities that you see in your slide. It will improve bridges over MacArthur Boulevard, Dyer Road, Edinger Avenue, and the railroad near Edinger Avenue. This involves constructing new walls and bridge columns. The project will also demolish the concrete channel that runs parallel to southbound SR-55 from Dyer to MacArthur. The channel will be reconstructed to accommodate the freeway improvements. It'll also realign various on and off ramps. This will require periodic closures of ramps for up to 10 days. And there are 2 ramps that will be closed for longer than 10 days while they are being realigned. And they are the northbound Dyer Road Loop on-ramp and the southbound McFadden Avenue on-ramp. The project will also construct retaining walls in both directions of the freeway. We'll talk about this a little bit more in the next few slides. In addition, some surface streets will be narrowed, such as Pullman Street, while others will remain the same width, but will be realigned, such as Cowan. Utilities are also being relocated, and that work began in 2021. It'll continue throughout construction. Businesses that are affected by utility relocations will receive advance notification from either the utility company or OCTA. Notification regarding planned outages are normally handled by the utility companies. Next slide, please. So as with any construction project, short-term and temporary impacts are expected. Generally, the contractor will be working on weekdays, but may also need to work at nights or on weekends. For major construction activities, full overnight freeway closures may be required, and these closures typically occur between 9 p.m. and 5 a.m. As mentioned earlier, some on and off ramps will be closed for up to 10 days, except the 2 ramps that will require longer closures. Noise and vibration can be expected from activities such as demolition, pile driving, concrete barrier removal, and asphalt grinding, among other activities. In addition, lighting will be a factor for nighttime operations. Next slide.
I'm going to give Ruben a chance to finish. There we go.
So as mentioned earlier, there are 4 bridges that will be worked on. This graphic shows the general timeframes for work associated with each bridge. So to minimize the impacts on the public and local traffic, contractors are focused on the MacArthur and Edinger bridges this year. Construction on the Railroad Bridge will also begin this summer, but will have minimal impacts on the public. In 2024, they will shift their attention to the Dyer Bridge once MacArthur and Edinger bridges are done. So these bridges are not full bridge demolitions. Contractors will be demolishing the concrete barriers on the sides of the bridges, then adding onto them to accommodate the freeway improvements. Next slide. Okay, so in this next slide, you'll see a photo of the barrier on the east side of the MacArthur Boulevard Bridge that was demolished in January. Since then, contractors have also completed daytime pile driving for the foundation of the bridge and temporary lane restriping to allow crews to continue to work safely at the bridge through the end of this year. Around the Edinger Bridge, you may have seen piles of dirt. That initiates a settlement period to compact soil levels before demolition begins. Starting this summer, the east and west sides of the Edinger Bridge will be demolished over several nights. Edinger Avenue will be closed in both directions, as well as the outside lanes on the northbound and southbound direction of 55. Now, in advance of this work, outreach will be notifying the public and providing detour maps. And this bridge is expected to be completed in early 2024. So after demolition, we wanted to give you an idea or a sense of what the general process entails in reconstructing a bridge. So contractors will be excavating and placing piles for the foundation of the bridge. Then they're going to be building the bridge abutments, which are the concrete structures supporting each side of the bridge. Then building the bridge columns, followed by placing false work, which is a temporary structure to support the bridge while it's being constructed. Then they'll move on to constructing the bridge deck, the horizontal bridge component that spans the freeway. And then lastly, construct the barriers on each side of the bridge and the approaches, as well as perform any type of utility work that is needed. Next slide. Another major activity is a demolition and reconstruction of the lane channel in the very southern part of the project. Contractors have already excavated the roadway along the west side of the channel behind K-Rail to allow crews to work. They're currently installing temporary shoring removing vegetation along the east side of the channel, and demolishing the channel from north to south before rebuilding it into a U-shaped channel. Permanent fencing will also be installed, and this work will occur intermittently through 2025, typically from May to October during the dry season. Next slide. Okay, retaining walls are an important structural component to freeway improvement projects. There are over 20 retaining walls of varying sizes that are being constructed, mostly along the northbound direction of 55. At this time, contractors are working on about half dozen walls, with several more planned to start in the coming months. Typically, construction of retaining walls involve excavating for footings, backfilling, building forms, installing rebar, and pouring concrete. Most of the work occurs during the day behind K-rail, with the possibility of nighttime work for some concrete pours. Next slide.
Thank you so much, Kalina. As that concludes the project overview portion of our presentation, I want to pause here to launch a couple more of our poll questions before we move on to talk about our public outreach efforts and the business outreach program that we have available. So our next poll question, we would love to know, which corridor city are you joining us from? Maybe Irvine, Santa Ana, Tustin, or other. You're commuting from outside the area. Oh, look like Irvine and Tustin are tied, both at just about 30. Oh, and everybody's still participating. Tustin and Irvine are neck and neck, 32% each, and Santa Ana just a bit behind there at 11%. Thank you so much, everyone. If you are in any of those corridor cities, you might be interested to learn about Focus on 55. Let's launch our last poll question before we dive into that. Which stakeholder type best describes you? Do you work in the corridor, or maybe you're a local business owner? Maybe you commute through the area, or a local resident, or other? We'll wait a moment for folks to respond. Excellent. Looks like around 40% of folks either work in the corridor or a local business owner, and just over 40% are local residents. Thanks so much, everyone. For those local business owners, you might be interested to learn more about our Focus on 55 program, and I'll pass back to Kalina and she can tell you more about that.
Thank you, Marisa, and thanks everybody for participating in the polls. Okay, so moving on to Focus on 55, to help support local businesses that are affected during construction, our Focus on 55 program promotes visibility by marketing a business on our print and digital materials. These can include featuring your business on our social media platforms, project webpage, and in our construction emails. We have over 60 businesses that are enrolled in the program, which is open to any business in the cities of Santa Ana, Irvine, and Tustin. It's free to participate and registration is easy, so interested businesses can sign up directly on our project website. Next slide. So the outreach team uses several strategies to get information out to the public about construction activities, the project schedule, and closures and detours. One of the best ways to keep informed is with our interactive closures and detours map, accessible from our website. So this resource is updated weekly, and you can bookmark it to get the latest information about construction activities. We also hold stakeholder briefings and targeted neighborhood meetings. We send out construction weekly alerts with information about upcoming work, as well as outreach we're doing in the community, such as webinars and being at local events. Additionally, we have print resources such as fact sheets and FAQs. We develop flyers and detour maps for specific construction activities and canvass them to neighboring businesses and residences. Our materials are also translated in Spanish so we can reach a broader audience. Next slide. So there's a number of ways to stay connected to the project. Our project webpage has the most current information, and you can find us at 55 FWY Project on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Another tool we offer is free text alerts, and you can text 55 FWY Project to the number you see at your screen to receive periodic updates on key construction activities, closures, and detours. We're here to help you through construction. If you have any questions, we're available by email or phone, where any member of our team will respond to your questions or comments. So with that, that includes the presentation, and we'll open it up for Q&A.
Thank you so much, Kalina. As a reminder for everyone, the recording of today's presentation and the PowerPoint will be available on our project website, octa.net/SR-55 South. Those will both be available before the end of the week. And at this time, I'd love to welcome Ruben back to our main meeting channel so we can provide live interpretation during the Q&A session. At this time, we would welcome your questions. We will do our best to answer any questions in the order received. Please drop any questions or comments into the Q&A feature in Zoom. Looks like the conversation bubbles icon here, and that can be found in your toolbar. And we may also reach out to you in the chat directly just to get more information or clarification to best answer your question. And if you are joining us over the phone today, please press *9 to raise your hand. That'll let our team know that you have a question. We will call on phone users by calling out the last 4 digits of your phone number. And when it's your turn to speak, you can press *6 to unmute and ask your question.
Para las personas que están participando en línea, ya estamos ahorita en las preguntas y respuestas. Por favor, hagan clic en donde dice Q&A, el botón para escribir su pregunta. Y los participantes que están por teléfono, por favor, opriman *9 para levantar la mano. Cuando ya le toca su turno a hablar, por favor, oprima *6 para escuchar.
Thank you so much, Ruben. We have our first question in the Q&A box from Erica Zepeda. Hi, Erica, thanks for joining us. Erica mentions that construction workers are working at odd hours, and that's disturbing tenants. How can we stop this? They're unable to sleep. Thanks for that question, Erica. Ruben, if you could translate that for us.
Yeah, can she repeat the question?
Sure. Construction workers, she's asking, construction workers are working at odd hours of the night, and if it's possible to stop, and since it's disturbing tenants and they're having a hard time sleeping.
¿Sí se puede parar?
Okay, Kalina.
Okay, thank you, Marisa. Thank you, Erica, for asking that question. You know, generally, as I mentioned in the presentation, that contractors are going to be working during daytime hours. The area that I believe that you're referring to is along northbound 55 near the 55 and 5 interchange. In that particular area, there's some activities happening that are generally working where contractors are working during the day. There might be some utility work that's being performed by utility companies that might have resulted in some of the impacts that you've described. So I think we'll have the outreach team contact you off to the side so we can get a little bit more information as to maybe the dates and times that you're observing the noise, and we can work with either the construction team or follow up with the utility companies to see what type of work is being performed, and we can take that off to the side.
La respuesta sobre esa pregunta es, la mayoría del tiempo los constructores están trabajando durante el día. Lo que está refiriendo sobre cuando la autopista 55 y la autopista 5 se reúnen en la parte norte, hay construcción a veces que se ocurre durante la noche y también están actualizando las utilidades. Si usted tiene cualquier problema con esto, por favor, comunícanos con nosotros y podemos tratar de resolver este problema.
Thank you. All right, next question. How long will Edinger Avenue, East and West, be closed?
Otra pregunta, ¿por cuánto tiempo va a estar la calle Edinger Avenue? Al parte este y oeste va a estar cerrado.
Thank you. So when the barriers are demolished on Edinger Avenue, it typically occurs over several nights. They start their closures at 9 p.m. and then they will reopen Edinger or traffic at 5 o'clock in the morning. At this time, it's difficult to say exactly how many nights because we don't have that information right now from the contractor. But once we do, we'll be sending out flyer notifications as well as other digital materials on the actual bridge work and the associated closures.
Por lo general, este cierre, que como están actualizando las barreras, normalmente se cierra durante las 9 de la noche y se abre ya a las 5 de la mañana por la Edinger Avenue. No tenemos suficiente información ahorita, pero cuando recibamos más información, nos vamos a notificar a ustedes.
Thank you. All right, next question regarding Edinger. How long will the on and off ramps north and south be closed?
¿Con qué tan frecuencia las rampas norte y sur del Edinger estarán cerrados?
So same comment from the previous question. We're still waiting for information from the contractor regarding the length of the closures on Edinger as well as the associated ramps nearby, right, related to the bridge work. So again, once we have that information, we'll be sharing that on our print and digital materials.
También, como la pregunta anterior, todavía no hemos recibido información a los contratistas, pero cuando ya recibimos esa información sobre la cerrada de las rampas, le enviaremos esa notificación.
Thank you. We also got a few questions in before today's presentation, Kalina.
Okay.
The first one, can you tell us about the construction activity at Dyer and what work will be done at that location?
También tenemos algunas preguntas que fueron escritas anteriormente. ¿Me pueden hablar más sobre la construcción sobre Avenida Dyer o Dyer Road?
Thank you, Marisa and Ruben. So as I mentioned in the presentation, there's a couple of activities actually happening around Dyer Road. The largest one, as I mentioned in the presentation, is the bridge work. So that bridge, just to repeat, is going to be under demolition and reconstruction starting in 2024. There's also activities that the contractor will be performing relating to the bridge work, which includes the reconstruction of the center median along Grand Avenue and modifying the curb return. Again, these two activities are tied to the bridge work. Contractors are expected to reduce lanes so that way they can perform this work. In addition to that, there's also a retaining wall that's going to be constructed in a landscape area along Grand Avenue. It's within Caltrans's right of way, but you'll see work up above. That retaining wall isn't going to be constructed until summer of next year and should be completed by the end of next year. So as far as work around Dyer, you're looking at the retaining wall and then the bridge work, as well as the median that's going to be reconstructed along Grand Avenue.
Sí, los contratistas van a ampliar los puentes en las autopistas en Dyer Road y estos contratistas van a demoler las barreras de concreto. Entonces sí va a haber construcción en Dyer Road. Le vamos a enviar más información sobre la construcción. También están proponiendo planear también a poner una mediano, modificar eso también. Entonces, si tiene cualquier pregunta, por favor, le vamos a enviar más información sobre esto.
Thank you. Another question that we received came from a business located on Cowan. Can you explain the work in that area and how long it will take? This business owner noted that employees can hear the construction activity and they can occasionally feel vibration.
Esta pregunta es de un dueño de una pequeña empresa sobre en Cowan y ellos tienen preocupación sobre el ruido y que si me pueden contestar esa pregunta que están haciendo.
Okay, thank you. So there's a couple of things happening on Cowan, generally between Fitch Avenue or just Fitch and MacArthur Boulevard. So there's some utility work that's being performed by some utility companies right now, but I think the noise and vibration impacts that you might be experiencing relates to a retaining wall that's being constructed on Cowan, along Cowan. That retaining wall has been in progress, and I know contractors haven't been at the location over the past couple of weeks, but they plan to return next week to continue several of activities related to the construction of that wall. So in terms of an estimated completion date for that wall, we're looking at this summer. So that's been a wall that's been, contractors have been working for the past couple of months now, and we're looking to wrap up construction of that wall by this summer. So by then you shouldn't be experiencing as many of the impacts that your business has.
Sí, están construyendo un muro de contención sobre Cower. Ahorita lo que estaban haciendo eran arreglando los servicios públicos y el trabajo de completar el muro de contención será completado para este verano. Entonces, ojalá después para este verano no va a haber tanto ruido, ¿verdad?
Thank you. Another question that we did receive, do you have any information about the construction activity at the 5573 connector? When will that work be done? Is it a part of this project?
También tengo otra pregunta, la actividad sobre el 55, la autopista 55 y el 73. Hay construcción ahí. ¿Me pueden explicar qué es eso?
Okay, so the work that you're seeing at 73, SR-73 at the 55 along southbound 55 is not part of this project. That project is actually a Caltrans seismic retrofit project. If you have any questions or concerns about that project, we'd be happy to put you in touch with the Caltrans Public Information Office. In fact, if we can have the team drop in that contact information in the chat, that would be great.
Sí, esa respuesta, ese trabajo no tiene nada que ver con nosotros, sino es un proyecto de rehabilitación sísmica por la autopista 73, es por Caltrans, la agencia. Tenemos esa información de contacto y estamos dispuestos a proporcionarle esa información si tiene preguntas.
Thank you. Do we have any other questions from anyone joining us today? Feel free to use the Q&A function. And we have already gotten to several. Thank you so much. While we're waiting to see if there's any other Q&A, I want to provide another reminder. The recording of this afternoon's presentation and a copy of the PowerPoint will be available on our project website later this week, octa.net/SR55 South. And another reminder, we do have a presentation available. We would love your feedback about the information presented this afternoon. All feedback is welcome as it helps us to refine our presentation and determine what information you're interested in learning more about for the next virtual meeting that we hold. We'll drop that link for the presentation into the chat once more if you're interested. Excuse me. We'll also send out an e-blast to all registered participants following today's presentation so that you can have that link directly in your inbox as well.
Le vamos a enviar más información en el chat sobre cómo tener acceso a esta presentación. También nos gustaría recibir sus opiniones. Por favor, llena la encuesta en el chat y llénalo. Estamos más disponibles. Y eso es todo. Muchísimas gracias por asistir a esta reunión.
Okay, seeing no other questions in the Q&A, we do want to thank oh, look at, perfect. Thanks for that question, Adam. Will there still be 2 exits for Dyer, one on Grand and one on Dyer?
¿Va a haber 2 salidas en Dyer?
Could I ask for clarification on that, Marisa?
So right now there's 2 Dyer off ramps. So the answer, Adam, is yes. The location of the ramps will remain. There's one off ramp that puts you off on Grand, and then there is an off ramp at Dyer that puts you right on Dyer. So it's just an east and a west off ramp.
Sí, la respuesta de esta pregunta, sí va a haber todavía las rampas, estarán ahí en Dyer.
Excellent. Any other questions before we wrap up today's meeting?
Did we get the question from Claudia? Let's see. Claudia?
Yeah, we answered it live in the chat.
Oh,
So
okay, great.
the
Thank you.
question there was regarding Warner, and we explained that there is no construction planned at Warner as part of this project.
Okay, great. Thank you. And then I just wanted to add a plug in here that we did get a couple of questions relating to closures associated with the Edinger Bridge that's forthcoming. If you haven't already, please do sign up for our construction email notifications. We'll be issuing a special alert well in advance of that work with some information pertaining to that bridge and closures. So as soon as we get some information from the contractor and the construction team, we'll be sending that out to the public.
Tendremos notificación sobre el cierre del puente sobre Edinger. Por favor, inscríbanos a nuestro correo electrónico para recibir la notificación por correo electrónico para recibir estas notificaciones. Muchísimas gracias.
Thank you. Well, we do want to thank everyone for joining us this afternoon. We hope that you found this presentation informative. The recording, again, will be available on the project website before the end of the week. That's octa.net/SR-55 South. And we do want to encourage you to please take our survey. We've dropped the link to participate in the chat. And we will be sending that out to all the registered participants from today's webinar. That concludes this afternoon's presentation. We want to thank you for joining us and have a great afternoon. We'll see you next time.